How can you rapidly validate your ideas with AI? Which is the best tool to do that? I'm going to answer your questions today. Welcome to day 2 of building a SaaS from scratch. I'm your host, Rohit. It's technically day 3, I know, but I had to take a quick break yesterday because while I was putting out the first video from day 1, it went till pretty late, the whole editing part, the rendering part. It took a bit of a toll on me. I'm back ready to deliver some insights today. I'm going to show you how you can validate your ideas with AI. I'm going to try out a bunch of tools and give a summary so y'all can decide which is the best tool for your needs. I'm also going to give you an exact prompt of how to do. Now, one of my favorite podcasts to watch on YouTube, by the way, shout out to YouTube University. It's one of my favorite ways of learning. And for the past couple of days, I've been watching a lot of videos that talk through the process of building a startup, marketing it, gaining users, the whole shebang. So back to my original point, one of my favorite podcasts to watch on YouTube is by Greg Isenberg. He gives out entire plans of how to build out a startup, how to do the marketing, how to find users, and everything else in between. Recently, he shared a Reddit post which went through a very comprehensive process, right from idea validation to building out the entire application. I thought the idea validation structure for it was really nice. Now, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take the suggested prompts as well as insights that Greg added in his video and give it my own flair to it wherever I feel necessary. I'm going to use the same prompt across 4 different tools: ChatGPT, Claude AI, Perplexity, and Google AI Studio to see which can give me the best results for idea validation. Now, I see this as a 2-step process according to the outline which the Reddit post shared. So the first part is actually doing some competitor analysis for the industry. Now, guys, is mostly for those who already have an idea. I might cover a separate video on where to actually find ideas. But if you already have an idea what high-level industry this application or this solution is going to target. So once you have that, the first part of this is doing a competitor analysis of the industry, seeing what others in this field are building, see what the user landscape is, see what the kind of support is, see what are the drawbacks, the shortcomings of some of the users, see what features they're offering. This overall lets you get some baseline of the idea that you're thinking of. Does something like this already exist? What are the features that other competitors are building as compared to what you may have in mind? Are your features unique? Do you actually have a unique selling point? Are there complaints about the existing users that you can work on improving to capture that set of mindshare? And then from there, we're going to go to the second part of the video. So the second part is once you have the competitor analysis done, you're going to ask the AI tool to actually grill you with 20 questions to see, is your idea worth the salt? And once we have all of this information, once you've been grilled by the AI tool and you feel that, okay, this is something I still want to build, your idea does have some metal, what we're going to do is we're going to ask each AI to generate a PRD for us. A PRD is basically is project requirements document. It gives a summary of what the project is, the goals of the project, the target audience. It also gets into details about the features, the tech stack. Basically, this PRD document is what we're going to use once we have done our idea validation. And we're going to take this PRD document and move on to the next phase, which is starting to build out the actual idea. Now, for you guys, I have actually created accounts with all these 4 tools. I am also going to use different sets of tools across the entire 30 days. For idea validation, I might find that perhaps Perplexity does a really good job. And from some past experience, I know that for communication, Claude is really good. So at different phases of building the SaaS, I'm going to use different tools. But for most parts, these tools operate pretty similarly. And if you give it enough examples while you're prompting, I think every tool should produce quite similar results. So just to give you guys an overview of what this is, how the deep research workflow looks on a very high level. We have the user here, which is us. We're going to ask a question to the tool. By tool, I mean anything like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, or Gemini. The tool is going to understand this and ask itself some questions. It's going to ask itself if it has enough information to answer our question. If not, it's going to go out to the web. It's going to get some information back and analyze this. Then it's going to see if this information retrieved from the web is enough to answer a question. If not, it's going to go out once again, collect some more information from the web, come back, analyze, and continue this process until the tool feels, okay, I have enough information to get back to the user. at which point it's going to get back to us with this information which it has collected and analyzed in some organized manner. Now, because all of these tools are searching the same web, they are going to have access to the same resources for most parts. It's just how many resources they access, how they process, how they present this information. So that's what I mean when I say that most of these tools are going to return the same information. It's just going to be in a different format, a different structure. And we'll have a look inside the tools itself, what I mean, in just a moment. I will keep sharing my learnings about each tool as I use, as well as some insights. And if you already have a particular tool, you can stick to it. You'll also get a feel about how to go about prompting a particular tool. Without further ado, let's get into the actual nitty gritties. I'm going to show you the prompts. So here you can see I'm in the ChatGPT interface. I have a local app installed for ChatGPT. This is going to be my prompt for all of the tools that I'm trying out. My idea is building something in the AI teleprompting and presentation coaching space. What does the competitive landscape look like, aka who am I going to be competing with? This is a pretty straightforward prompt. Again, this learnings from Reddit as well as insights from Greg and some notes from my end as well, based on what idea I have. One thing you want to look at these apps, which I am going to enable, is the deep research option. So depending on which app, which tool you're using, this might be called something slightly different, but it might have something around research in its name. Here, if I in here, it's yes, other tools that might for the pro subscription found that this gives a better result, especially when you want to do some research, which is what we're doing now in competitor. And you can have a look at more options here. You can upload file, photo, whatever. For the ChatGPT model, of course, I'm using O4 Mini High. Now you can see, give this query the request to ChatGPT some follow-up questions, which I really like. So I'm going to answer these questions quickly and see what it does next. So this is my answer. And it takes a few minutes to generate, at least takes 10, 15 minutes easily. But I find it worth. Sometimes this information can be a lot. So ChatGPT finally got back with some information. This is what it looks like. It starts by giving me a summary of what the market looks like overall. It says, this is what the coach market was valued in 2024, and these are the projections for 2023. It does recognize that I'm looking at two different segments. It gives me a recap from what answers I gave to the questions it asked, and then it breaks this down into two segments. So first off, it's going to give me an overview of what my competitors are doing in the AI-powered teleprompter tool space. So as you can see, it gives me quick summary of what common features all of these teleprompter tools have. Then it dives into each of them one by one. Every tool, it gives me a specific about which platform this tool is available at, what are some of the signature features of this tool, what is the pricing, and what are the caveats. You can see this is doing for a bunch of tools. So it gives me a pretty comprehensive summary of what I can expect from each tool, which helps me understand what each tool offers in comparison to what I might be thinking from my original idea. It helps me understand how many of these tools have overlapping features, how many of these do not have any overlap from my idea, and is there truly a space for me to fit in? I'm not going to dive into each of these tools. I'm just going to scroll through quickly, but it gives me a very nice table actually, which summarizes all of this textual information into tabular format. So it talks about the tools, which includes the platforms. Then it talks about its notable features, pricing model, and then target users. Every tool based on its core features might have a different target user. This is a very nice summary. I don't need to read the paragraphs as much. Then it gives me a textual summary of the overall AI teleprompter tool landscapes. It talks very high level about some of the projects, some of the common core features, how they are working at an enterprise level versus at a B2C level. What can be some of the key differentiators if I get into the space? On a very high level, it says this is a crowded space, but if I can be innovative, have some emphasis on mobile convenience, AI-driven use cases, and integrated video tools, I might get some edge. Then it dives into the second category, which is the AI-driven presentation coaching solutions. It does a similar thing for each of the tools available in that space as well. You can see here, paragraphs about each of the tools here, what they offer, how they operate, pricing models, what are the key features, what is the user landscape. And here you can see again this nice tabular summary of what it looks like. So that's what ChatGPT offers. And then, okay, this is an interesting bit. It dives into the recent trends and emerging technologies. This is nice. It's given me an overview of what projects are there in the landscape. And then it's going to give me some trends about, it's going to give me an overview about some of the trends and emerging technologies. So I can understand what's really happening in the space. What are some of the features I can look out to? And here you can see going mobile first, having some real-time assistance, AI features as the transcription is happening, as the teleprompting, as the presentation is happening. Integration of AI writing, I've seen this commonly. Immersive and interactive training, integrating some AR, VR features into speech. And finally, it gives me a very brief one paragraph conclusion of the overall information it's provided to me. So I would say that's pretty solid information to move on. We quickly look into the other tools as well, what they've returned with. In the background, I had given these tools prompts as well. And let's quickly move on to Claude. Okay, so now we're in Claude and this is what it looks like. It didn't ask us any questions at the beginning, just ChatGPT did. It did give a summary of the resources it went through. And again, you can see some of these numbers. We saw the same with ChatGPT as well. So this is what I meant by all of these AI tools. They're going to go research the same web sources and get back to you information in a different manner based on how these tools have been trained. Okay, so this is the actual document that it has generated. And let's have a look at what it's saying. It gives us an overall market opportunity similar to what ChatGPT did. It gives us an understanding of where businesses stand with AI-powered software. Then it gives us information about the products, the competitors in a slightly different manner, it seems. Here we can see it's split it into first enterprise presentation coaching platforms. So it's given us platforms in that domain. Then it's having a second look at consumer teleprompting tools. Again, within the actual paragraphs, this kind of gives us what the core features of all of the tools are and what are their pricing models and things like that. But again, this information feels a little haphazard to me personally. Feels like the information in ChatGPT was structured, like all of the paragraphs had a similar structure, so I could directly compare it to the previous paragraph, the previous tool, even without needing a comparison table. Okay, here it's given me some VR-based platforms and it's given me some market trends. Again, what are some of the giants in the industry? What are some of the major opportunities? What are some funding landscapes? Again, this is not some of the information that directly ties into what I'm looking for as a startup founder. Again, these are like very high level projects. And as I've said in my previous video, even if there exist platforms within your particular industry, there is scope for improvement. There is ways to find that gap which existing platforms have for you to fill in. So far, Claude is, I would say, falling a little short for me personally. Competitive differentiation strategies. Okay, I think this is where all of the tools that Claude has listed out, how do they separate themselves from the market? Okay. And then there's a strategic outlook for the next few months are going to look like. Okay, now this has the same information that ChatGPT had, but it's just not well presented for me to make a decision on whether I want to dive into this industry, this space, or whether I should consider some other options. Now, I definitely feel that there could be some more context added to what ChatGPT provided, but I feel that Claude is not doing well in presenting the information it has researched. With that said, let's have a look at maybe another platform. Let's have a look at Perplexity. Okay, so here we're in Perplexity, and Perplexity kind of arranges all of the information for us nicely. So, whereas ChatGPT has all of it in like one flow, Perplexity has given us tabs for all of the information. First up is the actual research it's conducted, then the steps it goes through to conduct that research. This is kind of what I told you in the back end, where the tool thinks if it has enough information, goes out, checks for resources, analyzes it, comes back, goes out again, gets some more resources, and does that. So these are the steps that are happening in the back end. images, if it like generated any images. I think these are just fetched from the websites. Then if you just want a comprehensive list of the sources, it gives us that as well, which is really nice. We can double check all of these sources. This is what I really like about these AI tools overall is they give the sources from where they are fetching this information. So if you want to go back, double check, you want to dive deeper into a particular bit of information, we always have that option. So looking into the research tab here, it right off the box gives us this key takeaway. Okay, so this key takeaway straight up tells us that, okay, the market is crowded with a lot of these inexpensive mobile apps, open source projects, and some heavy hitters. What I really like about Perplexity here is the segment map. So instead of giving me a tool-wise table, it's given me a segment-wise table talking about what each segment does and then what are the tools within this. So this helps me narrow down while making decisions. Based on my idea, I can see, does it fall under any particular segment and then compare the competitors. If not within these particular segments, there's a chance that, okay, we are really finding that white space, that gap that gives us a competitive edge. Then again, it gives us the player profile, just overviews of these tools. Nothing as comprehensive as ChatGPT has given us. I think ChatGPT has excelled there, both in terms of the amount of information as well as the uniformity of structure. Then Perplexity gives us the market dynamics. So this is really nice. Basically, what are some of the disadvantages or some of the things we need to keep in mind for users? They might quickly switch over to another platform or might prefer the competitors. This brings us to the white space opportunities. So, what we can do or what we must do to get that, or basically what are the opportunities there that we can capture on. And then finally, strategic implementations is what we absolutely must do to gain that competitive edge. It gives us a very brief bottom line, which is really nice. Dozens of prompt apps, a few AI speech analysis startups, and then heavy hitters like Microsoft. I would say so far, Perplexity has given me the most amount of very actionable information to make a decision so far, with ChatGPT coming a close second. We have one more tool left, which is Google Gemini. So let's quickly dive into that. Okay, so here we are in Google Gemini. Now, unlike the other tools, what Google actually did here, what Gemini actually did here was it first gave me a plan for the research, how it's going to go about it. And then it was like, okay, is this plan good enough or do you want to edit it? I went with the default plan it generated. Seemed pretty straightforward. And this is what the document on the right-hand side you can see. Right off the bat, something interesting you can see here is it lets you actually do some more stuff with this information that you've created, which is pretty interesting. Might have a look at this later, but for now, let's just go into the actual details of what it's generated. Okay, so I feel that what is generated is a little wordy and a little like fancy, it's just the language it has used. But I'm not going to discount the information just yet. Let's see what it has told us. Okay, so it says the market for presentation is going under transformation. Okay, okay, this is very nice. It right off the bat tells us that, okay, if we want to succeed in this market, we cannot be a standalone application, just offer one thing. There's a transformation where apps are giving end-to-end workflows right within. That's like script writing, recording, editing, post analysis, all of these. And then it talks about the key competitive forces, what are the high level blocks that I'm going up against? There are, of course, the startups, then there's the juggernauts like Microsoft, and then there's technological commoditization. This means the various models that are out there, the open source stuff. Of course, strategic imperative. What this means is we need to identify what the white space is. Again, like obviously, you need to find a gap in opportunity that you can really focus on. And then delivering a superior experience on that opportunity. Okay, this is a very nice take, I feel. Then the market landscape and opportunity analysis. Now here it's getting into the market sizes. Again, this is pretty similar to what ChatGPT, what we saw with Claude as well, and what we saw with Perplexity. Again, similar numbers, which reiterates my point about they're searching the same web, not producing new information, just presenting it differently. Okay, high growth segments. It's saying that the coaching side of AI is a high growth segment. And then the broader ecosystem, how it has developed, people are actually looking for tools for collaboration and communication since the pandemic. Then what are the market drivers that have caused this evolution? So it gives me a quick summary of that. What are certain restraints that we must be aware of? Then it gives us a more detailed segmented market landscape, again, diving into the specifics of each product. This market landscape is focused on the core function of each product. So this is really nice. Numbers aside, just for me to understand what are the key players and what are the key features. So it's given us across different markets, teleprompting, AI coaching, and then the VR, AR space. Then it dives into some of the key profiles, some of the profiles of the key competitors. Now, this is very in-depth analysis, more so than what ChatGPT did, which is depends, but I find it nice because it's not just listed the strengths of each product, but also the weaknesses. So weaknesses are usually areas you can find these gaps, these white space opportunities. Then pricing and monetization was pretty common. Target audience. If you've been unsure about your target audience, you can see which app matches your idea space and figure out your target audience. And then financials. Again, this information, financials, is not so much relevant to me, but still nice to have to see where the product can grow to or how much market is available to capture. This does this for a bunch of products, top 5 products I see, and then gives a table of all of them summarizing that information. Then rise of the hybrid platform. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. It's talking about how a bunch of platforms are doing the whole hybrid flow where they're not just focusing on one feature, but doing a bunch of things. But that said, if you really look into it in depth, that even if they're giving multiple features, they are really focusing on one particular solution. Descript is giving the entire workflow. It's really focusing on post-production polish, and then they've given for the other 2 platforms. Platform threat. This is something like what Perplexity showed us the barriers. Microsoft is a barrier because there's a speaker coach. But then it also gives us weaknesses of these threats that are there, areas that we can capture on. So it's talking about Microsoft, it's talking about Zoom and Google. And then it's talking about technology enablers, the commodity tools like Azure, speech to AI, OpenAI's Whisper, and things like that. While they present a challenge, they also bring an opportunity to serve as fundamental building blocks. So it's helping me channelize my thought process, how I can integrate some of the existing tools as well, which is, again, an interesting take, not something we've seen from the previous models. Then it comes to this, wow, 7 sections. It comes to strategic opportunities. It talks about, okay, what are some of the areas, the white spaces that I can really capitalize on? Delivering superior experience, actionable contextual feedback, and then a vertical specific solution. So instead of going for a broader audience, really diving down into which audience I'm going for. And based on that, it gives me pathways to how I can differentiate myself. Integrated workflow play, proprietary metrics, having some specific metrics for my own platform, community and content play. And finally, what it does is it gives me a very nice recommendation about how I can succeed in this space, what I should do. So I should basically integrate AI scripting, give an end-to-end solution. I should have a coaching engine. I should deliver some post-call analysis. So after the presentation has been done, and then I should like really dive into a particular vertical. Then it gives me this table of what each app provides, a nice visual to again understand what I can add to gain competitive edge in particular segments. And then there's a bunch of sources listed here. So here's the bottom line, guys. I feel, by the way, this was my first time trying out Google Gemini, and I feel it takes the award for idea validation. Again, this is a very initial competitor analysis. So I think, let me rephrase, it takes the award for helping you research the competitors as well as giving you ideas on how to succeed in a particular industry. The second part of this is something that I still have to do, which is defining what actually I'm going to build in this space based on this information, and then saying, okay, give me 20 questions, grill me about whether this idea even holds some metal, whether it can survive in this space. And once these 20 questions are done, if the tool responds positively, I'm going to say, okay, create that PRD, the product requirements document for me. These are 2 things that I will probably cover tomorrow because it's like pretty late here, and Google has provided me some interesting information that I need to ponder upon before I dive into that second step. So stay tuned for that second step. And an interesting note to end this session is I'm also writing another article. So if you guys like my thoughts on the golden era of microsas, I'm working on another thought leadership piece, which might excite you guys, something to look forward to. So thanks for joining us on day 2 or day 3 of building a SaaS from scratch. Today's analysis across various tools has definitely given me a lot to think about, and also really gotten me excited to use Google Gemini. I will reiterate that Google Gemini takes the award for, at least from my perspective, takes the award for giving a really detailed report of the competitor landscape and how you can succeed in the space. So that's it for today, guys. Peace.